In this video are 6 running backs I refuse to leave my fantasy football draft without. I'm not going to waste your time in this video. I never do. TreVeyon Henderson is going to be number 1 off the bat. Make sure you do stick around for the number 1 best running back at the end of the video. They might be the most controversial, but this guy TreVeyon Henderson is going to be the clear number 1 receiving back on his team that lacks a good amount of elite wide receiver options. Yes, they have Stephon Diggs. They have Kyle Williams, a couple guys that they went out and drafted. But they're not elite options, meaning that they will have to target the running backs in their scheme a lot more than other teams might. And I'll tell you exactly what that's going to mean in 2025 in a second. But if you don't believe me, just look at what the offense was in the past years. They haven't had great wide receiver options, and the Patriots just brought back Josh McDaniels to the offensive coordinator position. If you don't know what this means, I'm going to tell you right now. Last time he was with New England, he led James White to 3 straight seasons over a 17% team target share. His peak was at 21%. That would have been good for a top 5 running back last season. If Henderson sniffs anywhere near those numbers, he's going to be a legit league winner at his ADP in round 5 as the RB23. I fully expect his ADP to climb up as we get closer to the NFL season. The Patriots also made some pretty decent upgrades at the offensive line position, obviously through the draft, and the run game is going to be more efficient through that. And Ramondre Stevenson has been going down in efficiency and yards per carry pretty much ever since he's been drafted in 2021. He had 7 fumbles last year, so much so that he was being placed behind Antonio Gibson at some points in the season. If you don't know, I'm a Commanders fan. You can see the jersey there. Antonio Gibson has always had a fumbling problem. He had a ton of fumbles last year as well, so that should just show you how inefficient and bad this running back room was last season. All of this coming together under the new coaching staff that they brought in. There is no ties to any of these running backs outside of TreVeyon Henderson, and throughout the entirety of the season, especially if Henderson does well, he is pretty much guaranteed to be the clear number 1, and his player comparisons, just to put this out into the world, coming into the league is Reggie Bush and Jahmyr Gibbs. You cannot get much better than that. He's in the 92nd percentile of speed and the 80th percentile of size adjusted speed. And what is so overlooked in this situation is that he might be the number 1 best pass protector, pass blocker in his entire draft class. That's going to get him on the field more. That's going to allow him to get more dump offs in the offense. Again, Drake May is only getting better. This team is only getting better. But DeAndre Swift is the second running back on this list. Another clear RB1 in an offense that I am telling you is guaranteed to improve. The biggest coaching upgrade of the year in Ben Johnson comes over here. He had 2 running backs last season. Well, not even last season. Ever since he's been with the Lions as the offensive coordinator, he's had 2 running backs finish top 24 every single season. Add that to the Bears having one of the most improved offensive lines over the offseason, getting Jonah Jackson, Joe Thuney, Drew Dalman. And they are projected for the 7th best unit at the offensive line in 2025, and these 2 upgrade situations themselves are going to keep the offense on the field, which is what they struggled to do last year. They were 28th in points per game. They were 32nd in yards per game. It quite literally could not have gotten worse than that, and DeAndre Swift, through all of those inefficiencies, still managed to finish as a top 25 running back. Swift has never finished outside the top 24 running backs in his career or lower than 12.5 fantasy football points per game. Now he's going as the RB25 in round 7. Make that make sense. Ben Johnson's offensive schemes throughout the years has always favored using running backs in the pass game. Swift is kind of known as a pass-catching running back. He was the RB8 in routes run last year, the RB6 in yards per reception, the RB14 in yards after the catch, and last year, all of that. Again, despite the entire team being bottom 5 in every other statistic. And I won't cherry pick stats for you. On this channel, I give you 100% of the information that you need to make these decisions correctly and fairly for yourself. If you do appreciate that, guys, please go through and hit that subscribe button. It helps me out a ton as a creator, and I would love to keep giving you content like this throughout the entirety of the fantasy season. We have a ton of people on this channel that I helped win a fantasy football league. It's a great community. Again, I'd love to have you here, but his rushing efficiency was not amazing. He was the RB2 in evaded tackles, the RB23 in breakaway runs, but a lot of that did come from the offensive line and how bad that was. DeAndre Swift was the RB6 in stuffed run percentage. You can't really do much when the second you get the ball handed off to you, there's no holes. Like, the offensive line is just a brick wall in the wrong direction. So that's understandable. I kind of give him a pass on that. But with the amount of receiving weapons on this team, it is quite literally impossible for them to stack the box against the run. It's going to open up the field for DeAndre Swift to do a ton, because when you have Colson Loveland at the tight end, who they just brought in, Luther Burden, who they just brought in, DJ Moore, Rome Odunze, you cannot stack the box against DeAndre Swift. If it was Saquon, maybe, but even then you'd have a hard time. But another controversial running back here, we're going down a little bit farther in the ADP ranks, is going to be Caleb Johnson. This guy is going almost outside the top 30 running backs, depending on where you're drafting. Sometimes behind Jaylen Warren in some draft sites that aren't up to date. Again, my rankings, this page is always going to be up to date. Hit that follow button if you do appreciate that. But there are 3 main categories that you need to meet, or at least get close to be in the range of a league winning running back in fantasy football. That being red zone opportunities, rushing volume, and pass catching. Now, if you're a running back going really late in fantasy drafts, there's almost no way that you meet all of this criteria, especially as a rookie. Johnson meets a lot of that when you look at the statistics. He's locked in to be the goal line running back. From week 1, he is bigger and stronger than Jaylen Warren, 6'1", 224 pounds, compared to Warren at 5'8", 215. And this is proven. Jaylen Warren was the RB50 in red zone touches last year, the RB59 in carries inside the 5. Now, yes, the Steelers weren't an amazing offense that didn't get to the red zone a ton, but when they did, it was not Jaylen Warren. And the Steelers love to run the ball in general. They were 6th in attempts. With Fields at the quarterback position, they replaced that with Aaron Rodgers, who likes to play slower. But the most important concept here that, again, nobody's going to talk about is the ideal landing spot that the Steelers are for him when you look from a scheme perspective. Johnson was great in outside runs back in college. Not many NFL teams really use that in NFL games. There's one team that does, and that is the Pittsburgh Steelers. Arthur Smith, a notorious run-first guy, and the Steelers were 2nd in zone scheme run percentage at 61.9%, which is great. Again, if you look at Johnson's college numbers, he was top 5 in efficiency metrics like EPA per play, missed tackles forced per attempt, and he was in the 85th percentile of receiving production. Now, yes, the team didn't pass a ton, but Aaron Rodgers checks the ball down a lot. And look at the wide receivers they have on that team. It's DK and nobody. Which means, kind of like the Patriots, the running backs are going to be used heavily in the receiving game to make up for that. And again, I will always show you the full picture. Iowa didn't pass a ton to the running backs. That wasn't a part of their huge scheme. That doesn't mean that he can't do it. Again, he had a pretty high pass production rate, but that will be, in all fairness, Jaylen Warren's primary role for the season, at least to start out the year. He will be a steal in round 7 because he meets the criteria, or at least gets close to the potential of meeting the criteria to be a breakout running back with those 3 factors in fantasy football. But again, dropping it down a little bit deeper, even more, in ADP is going to be Jordan Mason, a guy that I am not leaving any of my drafts without. Honestly, people must not be doing their research yet in fantasy football because this one is pretty obvious. Some people are saying Aaron Jones is slowing down, he's regressing, he's not efficient. I say that's not entirely true. He did have a higher yard per carry number than he did the season before last, and he never finished below a 4.5 yard per carry mark in that category as well. But I do believe in the running back age drop-off and the utilization because of that. Statistically, RBs over the age of 28 do take a dip in total usage and decrease in explosiveness, which might be on the horizon for Aaron Jones. You look at a guy like Derrick Henry, he's 32. He's still doing all of this. He's like the primary exception to the rules, but his snap percentage is still way down from what it used to be. Now he's only on the field when he's getting the ball. I don't think he went over a 80% snap percentage in the entire year last year. That's going to give you a little bit less of upside. Now, when you look at last season for him in Minnesota, it was his first. He was the RB55 in juke rate and the RB29 in evaded tackles. The RB24 in breakaway run rate, despite being the RB13 in carries per game. Like, that discrepancy is real. And this is what I mean by the regression. We don't always see it in the broader level of fantasy football points and touches. You look at those numbers, oh, he's still got a good amount of touches, he's probably fine, which again is why you need to be subscribed to a channel like this one where I will do all the heavy lifting for you throughout the entirety of the season. And all of this to say, the Vikings go out and grab Jordan Mason with a 5th and a 6th round pick and put him on a 2-year deal worth $10.5 million. That is the 13th most guaranteed money out of any NFL running back to solve a specific problem. If you look at Jordan Mason in games where he played over 60% of the snaps, specifically last year, he averaged 15.9 fantasy points per game in those contests and over 5 yards per carry with an offensive line that was a little bit banged up and not as good as they could have been with the 49ers. And if we dive deeper into the efficiency metrics there and the void that he is going to fill, Mason was the 2nd overall running back in explosive carry percentage at 7.8, while when you look at Aaron Jones from last year at 3.5%, that is a huge difference. And to make this sound even worse, and I guess stand out more, Jordan Mason achieved all of that while facing the 2nd highest 8-man boxes in the entire NFL. Again, behind an injured and struggling offensive line. Mason is going as the RB40 in round 11, 12. He won't overtake Aaron Jones. I'm not putting him in this video to say that he will be the RB1 for sure, but he is 100% going to have a role, and he's an elite bench stash for you. But the number 1 running back group kind of is criminally being underrated in this video I have as the number 1 running backs here is going to be the Jaguars guys. And hear me out on this before you click off. This take is brought to you by the Liam Cohen effect in fantasy football, which is a complete loophole. Let me explain that. To set the scene, Travis Etienne and Bashaw Tutin are going as the RB39 and RB48 way outside of the top 32, even top 35 running backs, and they're being drafted so low, it's pretty much free. Again, behind guys like Trey Benson, Darius Slayton, Jalen McMillan, guys who are non-factors. Wide receiver 4s, Juwan Johnson, 2 starting running backs are going this low. Etienne missed a good amount of games last season because he played through the injury, and almost the entire duration of the season he was dealing with that. Even when he was playing in these games, finished as the RB42 because of it, and now he's getting drafted at the same price considering he's going to be fully healthy. Now again, both of these running backs do come into the season fully healthy into an offense that is only adding more weapons and probably going to stay on the field even more. And when you look at what Liam Cohen did and the effect that I'm talking about here, when he was the offensive coordinator with the Buccaneers last year and years prior to that, he led 2 running backs to finish top 5 in design screen plays. That's not checkdowns. That's not just balls that end up going his way. That is designed plays to get their running backs the ball in space. He led 2 running backs to be top 25 in routes run per game, 2 running backs to finish top 25 in fantasy football points per game. If you don't know who I'm talking about, that is Rachaad White and Bucky Irving. Now he comes to Jacksonville to do the exact same thing. The next question, though, becomes who is going to be the lead running back between all of these guys? Because it is more or less up in the air. My answer to that is going to start with Bashaw Tuden. If we look at him, he's the first guy that this new coaching staff reached out and grabbed and took in the draft. Historically, that situation does give you a better chance in the long run. But Etienne, he is the best pass catcher on this offense. He's also the best pass blocker. Tuden, not really great in pass protection at all, so that probably will be Etienne's role for the season. Tank Bigsby, I know a lot of people have questions about him. He's going as the RB67 right now, projected to be the first guy out of this running back group. Again, putting this all together to say, I will not falsely sell you on a player. Go grab this guy. He's going to be the RB1 for clicks. We still don't know who the #1 lead running back is going to be for the season, but training camp is going to tell us everything that we need to know of which running back is going to come in and win leagues and take a majority of the work. I will be monitoring that like a hawk throughout the offseason and the preseason, so please make sure you are subscribed for that, because whoever is the main running back is going to win leagues here. But that is going to finish off this video. Thank you guys so much for watching this one. All glory to the man above, and I will see you in the next one coming very soon.